Hare Krishna. Jai Jaya Apejan Ashokana Dasa Jaya Braja Janara Jaya Acharyananda Jaya Aja Yago Jaya Hare Ram Jaya Acharya Jaya Hare Jaya Madhava Jaya Kundala Hare Jaya Madhava Jaya Kundala Hare Abhijanava Panda Jaya Hare Abhijanava Alama Jaya Ashodana Jahana Jaya Brajadasya Jana Yashodana Jana Jaya Jaya Yamon Katsiravana Chay Hari Yamunate Ravancha Jaya Kunda Aminte Jaya Madhava Java Jaya Madhurya Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Gunda Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Hare Bal Tiger Hare Bal Tiger Hare Hare Bal Tiger Hare Siddhartha Damodar Ki Jai Namaste Saturday Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Sadan Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hare Bal All glories to the Spirit.
Antarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, Chapter 3, verse 14. Kovai hate prajat Kovai hate parajito parajitaya Maya yava Maya yanava sitapada Vyanavrita matir Veshaya Vesharayanavrita prakritir Anupashita mahacharanaha. Word-to-word translation. Kava, who is that person? Iha, within this material world. Te, of your lordship. Aparajitaha, not conquered. Aparajitaya, by the unconquerable. Mayaya, illusory energy. Anavasita padvya, whose path cannot be ascertained. Anavritamati, whose intelligence is not bewildered. Vishaya Visha, of material enjoyment which is like poison. Raya, by the course. Anavrita, not covered. Prakriti, whose nature. Anupashita, without worshipping. Mahacharanaha, the lotus feet of great devotees. Translation. Dear Lord, unless one worships the lotus feet of great devotees, one will be conquered by the illusory energy, and his intelligence will be bewildered. Indeed, who has not been carried away by the waves of material enjoyment, which are like poison? Your illusory energy is unconquerable. No one can see the path of this material energy or tell how it is working. Purport. Maharaja Nabhi was inclined to performing great sacrifices for begetting a son. The son might be as good as the supreme personality of Godhead, but such a material desire, be it great or insignificant, is brought about by the influence of Maya. A devotee does not at all desire anything for sense gratification. Devotion is therefore explained as devoid of material desires, anyabhilashita shunya. Everyone is subjected to the influence of Maya and entangled in all kinds of material desire. And Maharaj Nabhi was no exception. Freedom from Maya's influence is possible when one engages in the service of great devotees. Mahacharana Seva. One cannot be freed from Maya's influence. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nishtara Payeche Kheba. Who has been freed from Maya's clutches without serving the lotus feet of a Vaishnava? Maya is a Parajita, and her influence is also a Parajita, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Davi Heshamai Gunamai Mamamai Durate. This divine energy of mind consisting of three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome. Only a devotee can surpass Maya's great influence. It was no fault on Maharajanabi's part that he wanted a son. He wanted a son like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the best of all sons. By the association of the Lord's devotee, one no longer desires material opulence. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22:54. Sadhusanga Savashastrikai Lavamatra Sadhusanga Sarvasiddhihai, and Madhya 22:51. Mahat Kripa Vinakona Karma Bhaktinai Krishna Bhakti Durarahu Samsarana Hekshai. If one is serious about escaping Maya's influence and returning home back to Godhead, one must associate with a sadhu devotee. That is the verdict of all scriptures. By the slight association of a devotee, one can be freed from the clutches of Maya. Without the mercy of the pure devotee, one cannot get freedom by any means. Certainly, a pure devotee is associated in service of the Lord. One cannot be freed from Maya's clutches without sadhu sangha, the benediction of a great devotee. I'll just stop here for a second. I'll read this sentence again, it's very important. One cannot be freed from Maya's clutches without sadhu sangha, the benediction of a great devotee. So sadhu sangha is a benediction of a great devotee. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7:532, Prahlad Maharaj says, Naishamati stavaturu kramangrihim spreshati artha agamo yad artaha mahiya sampadarajo bhishekam nishkinchanam na vrinitayavat. One cannot become the Lord's pure devotee without taking the dust of a great devotee on his head. Padaraja bhishekam. A pure devotee is nishkinchana. He has no material desire to enjoy the material world. One has to take shelter of such a pure devotee in order to attain his qualities. The pure devotee is always free from the clutches of Maya and her influence. End of the purport. Wow. Hare Krishna. Bhava ihate parajita parajitaya maya yanavasita pada vyanavrittamatir vishaya visharanaya vritta prakritir anupashita mahacharanaha. Dear Lord, unless one worships the lotus feet of great devotees, one will be conquered by the illusory energy, and his intelligence will be bewildered. Indeed, who has not been carried away by the waves of material enjoyment, which are like poison? Your illusory energy is unconquerable. No one can see the path of this material energy or tell how it is working. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayadapa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantekam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashchatyade Shatarine. Hare Krishna, good morning, dear devotees. Thank you for coming to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is those such verses and purports are nectar to the ears because they explain the essence of how to progress in bhakti. And every one of you who are here on this call and all the devotees who are in the movement taking the path of bhakti seriously, at one point of their life met devotees and they got their mercy. And with that mercy that they got, they have managed to stop whatever unfavorable activities that they might have been doing. In other words, they got the higher taste to something much more superior, something that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has introduced, and through Guru Parampara, that message was delivered. And so all those desires, which are practically impossible to overcome on your own, have all of a sudden became so insignificant, so unimportant, so miserable, really, that you even stop paying attention to them. They may have come back in your life later on, but if you remember in the, how to say, they may have not come back to you, but they may have bothered you again sometime later on as you were still marching through path of bhakti. And for that, there are some reasons which we can briefly discuss, but usually it's connected to, again, Vaishnava Aparad or some other offenses that we commit or start taking the process cheaply, lightly, or the familiarity was somehow sneaked into our attitude towards these divine processes of bhakti. But if you remember that beginning, then certainly every one of you had that experience when, you know, your mind all of a sudden became like a crystal clear lake. There was no desires that would bother you in terms of mundane sense enjoyments, whatever they are, or whatever they may be. All of a sudden, everything that you did before became so distasteful, uninteresting, or even like even you had a feeling to reject them completely, that they became almost like abominable. You know, those fractions, those maybe seconds, days, months, or years, it depends, when you were flying above the ground by finally finding the Lord, the devotees, you know, something that is very, very familiar in a sense that a soul knows those activities from time immemorial, from spiritual world, and by remembering them, by all of a sudden coming across them, some of you may be seeking for them. You know, there are 4 categories of devotees. Somebody was actually seeking for absolute truth, you know, and somebody was inquisitive or suffering or looking for some opulences and found the greatest opulence. So when you found it, just remember that moment, or even, as I said, days, weeks, months, or years, when everything became so clear. You understood the goal. You understood. You experienced greatest happiness, and that's why you wanted to share it. Most of us immediately almost wanted to share it with your friends, relatives, and that's when the first strange barrier comes up, when all of a sudden You look at them, your relatives, friends, or so, the so-called friends, the friends before Krishna consciousness, and you understand. They don't understand what you're talking about, and they actually looking at you like a madman because you are too ecstatic, too strangely behaving, changing rapidly too quickly. You're just dropping everything left and right. And of course, especially in Prabhupada times, this was extremely visible, how people were changing overnight, even physically changing overnight, what to say overnight, over 1 hour, they could just come into the temple, got shaved, and there they are already with tilak and, dancing and on Harinams distributing back to God in magazines, they had no idea what they are doing even at that point, but they connected with some special mercy. The dust of lotus feet, of course, we can take it literally, and it is true. Vrajarenu, the dust of Vraj, where all the great devotees in the first place were walking. Of course, the Lord also himself was walking. So that dust brings up the prema bhakti in our hearts. But it also means the instructions that are given, and if you follow, you experience that exactly same mercy on your head. If you follow the instructions of spiritual master, of a pure devotee, if you serve in those pure devotees, then that is the cure. That is the ticket back to Godhead, but also it is the immunity towards the Daivihe Shagunamai Mamamai Duratya, against this illusory energy that bewilders every single creature in this universe. Remember Indra, he came to this material world in the form of a pig, and he got attached to the piglets, to his piglet family, to his wife pig and so-called, enjoyments. Um, he forgot the higher pleasure that was in the Indraloka. He was ruling there. And you know how it's almost impossible for him to give this all up. Uh, those attachments, he's very conscientious about this position and the enjoyments he's getting. He's attached to his wife, he's attached to the riches, and commits mistakes sometimes because of that. Um, but the pure devotees, they are above all this, above the prestige, above the fame, above the powers, above the opulences, because they found the greatest treasure. They keep it very deep into their hearts. Like Sanatana Goswami, when one Brahmana approached him, knowing that he has this Chintamani jewel, the philosophical touchstone that can turn any materials into the gold, he asked him, "I heard you have this greatest treasure. Uh, please, would you kindly give it to me?" Because he had the desire to have it. He said, "Yeah, sure. It's right there in the rubbish pile. Just dig it out." So Brahmana did. He was very happy. He found it, and he went back home. But then one thought, being a Brahmana, Brahmanas are thinkers. One thought, intelligent, one thought came to him. He thought, wait a minute. If that's the most valuable thing in the world, you can touch anything, turns to gold. Why is it in the rubbish pile? Why this Brahmana, this Vaishnava, keeps it in the most kind of place where you wouldn't even touch, because you have to purify yourself. It's after touching this, whatever that is, the rubbish. Why it is there? So he became curious. So he came back and asked Sanatana Goswami, "My dear sir, although I have, you know, approached you for this greatest treasure, I'm just wondering, why do you keep this greatest treasure in the most abominable place, the most, place where you throw away things, not keep the most valuables?" He said, Because I have something greater." I said, "Oh, what is it? What is greater than this? May I have that then?" I said, "Yes, you can. Just throw away this touchstone first to the lake. Then I'll tell you what's the greatest." And it was the moment of difficult moment. You just obtained something that was valuable, and now you can obtain something even more greater. But you may think, "Oh, but maybe it's not." Anyway, so through those doubts that went quickly through his head, he threw away this touchstone. He thought, "Okay, this Brahmana must, because he has realization in his words. You see, he's equipoised. He's not attached to this touchstone. He gave it to me, it wasn't a rubbish pile and he gave it to me. It's like something invaluable. But when you see it, not like you cannot imitate that level, but when they actually have that full realization, that full taste of love of Godhead in a form of holy name dancing in your tongue, then you can actually really say it with such a realization that all of a sudden, all those attachments from the other person who hears attentively and is ready to follow may also be imparted into you. Like Prabhupada says in this purport, when you do serve such great devotees, you acquire their qualities when you follow. So he followed. He threw away this touchstone to the lake or to the river. And then Sanatana Goswami gave him the holy name. All of a sudden, he attained the madness of love of Godhead and became completely satisfied and happy. This is what we are trying to achieve. That's what we are trying to attain. That's what our aspirations are for. So that we can actually finally one day chant the holy name with full attention, but also with full attachment, asakti, and other higher stages of chanting. We are aspiring for that. We want that because we see that. We've seen this. Srila Prabhupada disciples seen this in Srila Prabhupada. And we see it in some of his very genuine followers who really follow the path of bhakti strictly, not only in Prabhupada disciples, so he's in all the devotees who are serious and really attentive in their that treasure. I know one brahmachari from Ukraine, his name is Swarup Damodar. He chants the holy name all the time, and he forgets about the time when he starts chanting. So he said to us, let's just chant for 15 minutes, a little kirtan after prasadam. So we sat down and we chanted for 2 hours. He forgot about the time, and we also did forget about the time. Whenever he had his Harinam parties on Bhakti Sangam festivals, the largest Vaishnava festivals in Europe, he was always going there with Harinam. And I was sometimes running to service, even to serve Gurudev, but I just couldn't. I was like a magnet. It was like a magnet hypnotizing me as I was running through to do my service. When this Harinam party was going by, I had to stop for at least 5-10 minutes and chant with them. I couldn't pass this so tasty chanting and the bliss that were experiencing. So can you imagine this huge festival, 13,000 devotees? There was a booth where there was a 24-hour kirtan going on. Then there was a huge kirtans in the evening for 3 hours, morning program, an hour kirtan also. And in between the seminars and all that, and prasadam and Vaishnava exchanges, loving exchanges, there were 5 Harinam parties at the same time going around the campus area. And there wasn't campus, it was like, usually near the sea. So there were some, regular people also. So, they needed the constant mercy. And so you were constantly hearing the holy name wherever you go. This festival could charge us in 5 days or 10 days, whatever, it's not 10 days, 5-7 days. It could charge us so much so that we could, last energy for 3 months on the complete enthusiasm. So how difficult is that to get devotees together and just create a little festival, the Holy Name Festival, and actually get absorbed in chanting the Holy Name together? How much empowered and free of all those material desires that are still bothering sometimes our hearts due to, attachments and, past and some scars and all that. How easy to get rid of them if you actually take the process seriously. This is the essence of the Hare Krishna movement. And of course, the secret is to follow the instructions, because the example is given like blacksmith. You may not know the art, but if you follow precisely as the master tells you in that science, how to, make a whatever sword or whatever, if you just follow, you'll get it. Maybe it will not be perfect, but you will get the thing, you will get the result. And as you practice, you'll become more perfect if you follow the instructions precisely. You may not know the signs. So by following the instructions of pure devotees, we are safe. And there's one very important sentence, I direct your attention to it, in Srila Prabhupada's purport. He says, one cannot be freed from Maya's clutches without sadhu sangha, the benediction of a great devotee. Sometimes we think sadhu sangha is cheap. It's not cheap. It's actually benediction. It's actually something that is coming from the generous heart of a Vaishnava. Sometimes we don't know what to ask the devotees. So they help us. they reply in our questions before we ask, before we can even come up with a question. That's their mercy. They given their association to us generously for us to purify. So it's actually a very rare thing, sadhu sangha. It's something we should be hankering for, never lose an opportunity. How many times I was thinking, how can I go to this Bhakti Sangam festival? I don't have money. But I had a strong conviction. I have to go. I have to go even if I don't have money. Whatever happens, I have to go. There's no question I should not go. And somehow or other, Krishna always helped. All of a sudden, almost sometimes even the last week before the festival, some money came up, like almost in a miraculous way. Some job, some part-time job, whatever. So, and once I was afraid I'll spend all my money on the festival, on the trip to there, but I have to come back and pay for the flat, and I will only have like few days of work. At that time, I was selling paintings on the streets of Prague. And, I thought, how am I going to pay for the rent? I came back, I went to sell, I went to, to sell the paintings. And all of a sudden, I don't remember if this was, yeah, I think it was just before the festival. Some Arabian guy came to me with 4 wives, and all 4 wives wanted paintings. So he had to buy 4 paintings, big ones, for each of the wife. And so, all those money were generated. And then when I came back, I don't remember what happened, but exactly that sum of money that needed for the rent of the flat came up in 3 days, which usually took me like 15 days, like in a regular sales kind of thing. So, and the weather was bad also, it was autumn. So usually the summer is a time when, a lot of tourists are there and they buy in things. So it only increased the faith in the Lord, that if you want me, I'll help you to get me. You make 1 step towards me, I'll make thousands of steps towards you, not 10, thousands. So never just think of this as a priority. This is your life's duty in a human form of life, to realize God, and God will help you. He's in your heart. He sees your sincerity and desires. But you better get this as inspiration from devotees to see how they are hankering for Krishna, how they want Krishna. So, and you better pray to get to that level as soon as possible, because it's blissful level. Why do you want to stay on a level that's troublesome? Get to the blissful stage, get to the blissful level of just meeting the Lord every morning on Mangal Aartis, meeting the Lord on the morning programs, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in discussions of devotees, discussing devotees, the qualities and pastimes of the Lord, how they love Him. That's also Sadhu Sangha, actually. I remember His Holiness Shiva Maharaj with Niranjana Swami and Gurudev, they were discussing this topic about Lava Matra, having the association of devotees. And if reading of Srila Prabhupada's books is considered the association of a pure devotee, not only because it's actually Srila Prabhupada's ecstasies. He said, my purpose are my ecstasies. If you want my association, read my books, study my books. Because he gave himself completely to us for that association to be available. He actually, at that time when he was translating books at night, no one was nearby. No one had, apart from sometimes Shrutakirti Prabhu, Harishari, somebody who, was super curious despite their state of being tired and wanting to sleep. They sometimes could wake up all of a sudden in the middle of the night, or Shama Sundar Prabhu, whoever was the personal secretary or servant, they could hear a little bit, 15 minutes through their tamaguna tiredness, and you just hear how Prabhupada is translating. And Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj, he said, I was re-listening tapes over and over again, close to my ear, to hear Srila Prabhupada translating the purports, because he was transcribing them or something at the beginning. And he was said this was the most intimate association. We have the same. We have all those not all of those transcriptions. I mean, maybe we don't have all of those recordings when he actually dictated those purports, but we do have them in writing. And sometimes we do have them, even some copies are there in Vedabase you can find even when he's just dictating. So you can hear the same. What's the difference? And this is the most intimate connection with Srila Prabhupada. These hours, nobody was with him, and you can be present in those hours when he did that, through reading, through hearing attentively. So yes, so you can associate with Srila Prabhupada, but you also can associate with all those great Vaishnavas in Srimad Bhagavatam. You know, it says that Krishna can leave from holy name. He can be not present in when you chant, if you chant with offenses. He can even leave the deity forms, the Murti forms that were installed, if you are worshipping deities with offenses. You know, Krishna may leave those forms. He may not be present there. But he never leaves the Srimad Bhagavatam, where the pure devotees chant his glories. He's always present there. So that's the potency of Sadhu Sangha also. If we start chanting Sankirtana, if we start chanting his glories together in a humble attempt, Lord, please show your mercy to us. Appear. Appear in those talks, appear in the kirtan. Then we may experience the Lord's presence. He's not greedy, not to show up. He's merciful, he's Bhaktavatsala. The only thing is needed is that really the genuine desire, the sincere desire. You don't need to be Mahabhagavata for the Lord to appear in your Sadhu Sangha retreat. Because the Lord just likes the arrangement or the desire for devotees to be together and to sincerely glorify the Lord together. He can appear. I actually have I'll tell you the secret. The most blissful kirtans I have experienced are not the Bhakti Sangam festival kirtans. I mean, of course, some of them were really far out, and I remember them forever. But actually, some of them, those most valuable kirtans for me, was present in our little Namahata group with the sincere beginning devotees, not initiated devotees. A little group of 20 devotees that chanted so sincerely. The Lord was so strongly present. I never forget those experiences. Gurudev was not present there in a sense that, not a physical presence. He certainly was in our prayers and meditations, but it was his mercy and Srila Prabhupada's mercy for that experience that has come out. But it came out from the beginning devotees, including myself, a beginning devotees. We remember, all of us. I still ask those persons, they're not even practicing Krishna consciousness. They tell me, some of them, I still connect with them, they still tell me, this was the best time of my life, they say. They don't practice, but they still say this was the best time of my life. This is tangible, this is real. And moreover, because they remember in such a way, even they have troubles now, they will come back one day, because this taste will drag them back. So I would like to stop here. If you would like to add something, you all have that experience and mercy of dust of the lotus feet of devotees. Please, would you like to share something, Tarka Prabhu and other devotees?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
You for a very nice and enlivening class. The great verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. This message is repeated all over Shastra countless times in its purports, the importance of service to great devotees. But practically for us, Well, we have many great devotees in opportunities to get their association and render service. Primarily, of course, there's our spiritual master, and then there is our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. Serve him by serving his mission. Actually, we serve Srila Prabhupada and all of the previous acharyas in our line of succession by our service to ISKCON. That opportunity. Another wonderful opportunity for the association of an advanced devotee, which was taken advantage of even by all of our acharyas. So very, very, very special devotee. Our temples, usually there is Srimati Tulsi Devi. We can render service to Srimati Tulsi Devi even just by offering a few drops of water, and we sit and chant in her presence. She very much appreciates hearing the holy names. Very simple to render such service as a wonderful benefit. So the association of great Mahatmas, pure devotees, is a difficult thing for us to achieve. We should all take as much advantage of that opportunity as possible while we have it, because it's actually an extraordinarily rare, easy to take advantage, because to take it for granted, because for us opportunities are so plentiful and the opportunities can be lost. So take advantage while. Hey, you were speaking about Srila dictating his purports at night. We have the opportunity to associate with Srila Prabhupada by serving his mission and by hearing and repeating his. So many books. We have all of his books. We have of all of his lectures. We have actual recordings of his lectures. We have recordings of him singing bhajans and there is a huge archive of photos of Srila Prabhupada, 1,000 photos of Srila Prabhupada. So lots and lots and lots of ways to get the association of Srila valuable. So extremely valuable. So Srila Prabhupada translating at night, there actually was always one person with Srila Prabhupada at night. That was someone to be present to guard Srila Prabhupada, to make sure that he was not disturbed in any way, and to protect against any possible disturbance. So there was always somebody would be just outside the room, and also in the event that Srila Prabhupada needed anything. Occasionally something would come up, usually arranged beforehand. But so someone would be I was that guy, particularly in India. Service was guarding Srila Prabhupada's room at night. That was ecstatic service, very, very wonderful. Service was supposed to be divided into 3 shifts, but no one else ever showed up for their shift. So I wound up doing shifts through the entire night. And I still had service during the day. So get any sleep, but in spite of that, it was ecstatic. One Srimad Bhagavatam class, the Prabhupada had to, because I was not getting any sleep, I couldn't stay awake in class. And I stood up to try to stay awake. I was standing, but I was so tired, I wasn't thinking clearly, and I was standing up right in front of the deities, between Srila Prabhupada and the deities. So you can actually, there's a recording of this. You can hear Srila Prabhupada asking me to move to the side. But this was during festival time. It was impossible to move. The temple room was packed. I couldn't get to the side, so I had to just sit down again and try to remain awake. But that was services when I was very, very nice. I couldn't always hear Srila Prabhupada dictating, depended on the circumstances. Some places it was hard to hear. I would sit right outside the door and sometimes put my ear to the one occasion there was Srila Prabhupada was staying at the home of a life member, and the door, there was a big gap in the door. The door didn't meet the door jamb. So I was able to very easily hear Srila Prabhupada, and I could see him as well. I could watch him the whole night dictating and listen to him. It was very nice. Had lots of adventures, some occasional interactions with Srila Prabhupada. Very nice service. Serving Krishna's pure devotee. Very, very rare opportunity, extraordinarily rare. But would give the example that that enough. I will shut up. Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tarka Prabhu. It was so nice to hear Prabhupada's pastimes from you, from being a witness of it and participant. Jamil Prabhu, you have your hand raised.
Jai, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for this wonderful class. I was just reflecting a little bit when you were talking about how some of the most wonderful kirtans you had were when you were participating as a young devotee with the Namahat programs. And I was just reflecting in my head about some of the first kirtans that I was able to participate at the Institute in Washington, D.C. with the devotees, and the enthusiasm of, I guess, our youthfulness and being in this process and being with Bhakti Tirtha Swami and the devotees, and the enthusiasm that was generated in those small, intimate kirtan evenings that we had with one another. And I was just kind of relishing as you were talking about that, how they were just kind of wonderful, and kind of, I'm remembering that, and how, you know, trying to chase after that taste again, wanting to have that taste, that intimate taste that we had in the beginning, especially when we were first with Gurudev and experiencing Sankirtan as just so intimate and alive and real. And I just wanted to share that particular thought that I was having as you were talking about, you know, the kirtan and being with the sadhu sangha is such a wonderful experience, and it still is. And I still seek that mood and that energy. So that's just reflecting on some of the things you were saying. I just wanted to share that. So thank you very much for that class, and thank you, Tarka, for sharing the experiences with Prabhupada and listening in. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Ajamil Prabhu. You make me think a little deeper about this, and those close kirtans, there's two different moods. The festivals, big festivals and big kirtans is one mood of jubilation. Those close kirtans at homes or other little places where devotees meet is actually relationship based. And one of the reasons why Krishna was so present, because particularly those groups of devotees, and I remember those kirtans, we had very wonderful relationship amongst each other. There was no envy or like any like negative type of feelings. Plus, we knew each other very well, and we served together. So those kirtans, not only everybody was eagerly waiting for those because they were once a week, mm, but that eagerness to meet Krishna in a form of holy name was so present in every devotee that indeed sometimes, I would say most of the time, but sometimes they were really, really special. Yeah, special, special kirtans. And I think one of the reasons is actually because of the relationship among the devotees. Uh, that's what, yes, enthusiasm for sure, eagerness to hear and experience or serve even holy name. Serve. There was also an idea, at least, that we're trying to serve the holy name by chanting. But also, I think those loving devotees, like loving exchanges between the devotees, there was no barrier. In other words, devotees could open up really very quickly. They didn't have to hold it back and wait for 1 hour to get off the mind platform or something like that. Because they could be who they are and open up in those kirtans, open their hearts in the kirtan, and that's what's needed really for the good kirtan to happen. So just a little addition to that.
Hare Krishna, can I just say one more thing? I
Sure,
think we
sure.
always need to try and cultivate that relationship and cultivate that kind of mood. And the more we try and cultivate that, the more we can bring back that enlivening spirit that is there within it. It reawakens and opens that spirit that is there and just uncovers all the nonsense. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else? We still have, I think, a few minutes, 3-4 minutes. Okay, nothing in the chat. Okay, I have to leave. Thank you for the class. All right, so thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, the dust of the lotus feet of devotees ki jai, the service to pure devotees of the Lord ki jai. The benediction, let that benediction fall on us all, of the great devotees, because sadhusanga is a great benediction. Let's remember this. It's a very interesting way to present. Sadhusanga is a great benediction. the benediction of a great devotee. This is how. So, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ah.